Invest Africa, proudly brought to you by KPMG.
Hello and welcome to Invest Africa. I'm certainly glad to be back in sunny South Africa after my week in the snow-covered mountains of Davos, where myself and the CNBC Africa team spoke to presidents, business leaders and global influencers about the way forward. But joining me now to unpack the week that was at the World Economic Forum is Moses Kgosana. He is KPMG South Africa CEO. And for you at home, if you want to be a part of this conversation, you can certainly do that. Tweet us at CNBC Africa and of course use the hashtag InvestAfrica. Moses, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Now, sadly, I didn't get an opportunity to interview you while we were at Davos, and maybe that's a blessing in disguise. And maybe let's start off with your overall impressions of the week. Do you believe that WEF lived up to its rather ambitious targets, in my view, of making a better world?
Thank you very much for the invite. Yeah, I think it was a blessing. We didn't meet last week. It was very cold. I was struggling to come to your studios as well. Look, I think we've come a long way in talking economics. I mean, where it started. To say it has lived up to its vision of the new global context, I think it will be pushing it too hard. But certainly, many global leaders did meet there, and they make a big impression of what needs to be done differently in the new global context.
No doubt, Moses, this is not your first World Economic Forum, and over the years there's always been this consistent criticism that this is a talk shop, that many of the conversations that happen in the snowy peaks of Davos never filtrate down at a practical level in the markets where they're supposed to have a difference. Do you feel that that's a fair criticism, or is there really a tangible outcome that comes out of WEF?
My belief, actually, it was my first time. My belief is that many of the discussions that happens there does filter down on the ground. There are some, obviously, that is mostly a talk show, but there's not much we can do about that. But many actually do happen. I mean, we will have WEF Africa soon, and that will also be a continuation of some of the debates, especially that affects Africa.
Now, the idea of WEF started almost 45 years ago.
1971.
1971. So I hope my maths is right on that front. And the idea is to bring together world leaders and influencers so that they can test ideas and share some insights amongst each other. How would you describe the nature of the conversations that happened in the fora that you were in?
Yeah, I think for me there were two takeaways. Firstly, it's a forum where you bring politicians, heads of governments, big business together to find solutions for the world. For me, what impressed me a lot is that Africa has been on the lips of many investors out there and many businesses, and I believe the world have got a different view for us in Africa than they have 10 years ago.
Right.
And mostly because the world has got no more investment opportunities. Right. The West is saturated. So Africa is one of those emerging economies that people like it. There were lots of things talked about politics. There were things talked about digital. There were also things talked about economy at large and what Europe is doing, what Africa, China. So there were lots of barrage of information that could help us grow.
Well, Moses certainly talks about Africa being the new frontier for investment. Now, one of the voices that I did manage to catch up with was the president of Microsoft, and here's his views on the attractiveness of Africa as an investment destination.
Indeed, we are here in Davos to discuss about the way technology is a great equalizer in terms of social economic development. And as a company, Microsoft really stands for two things: productivity, raising the bar for people, organizations, and economies actually to grow faster, but also providing platforms of development to do that. In Africa, we launched actually a very exciting initiative a couple of years ago called For Africa. It's about three things. It's about access, innovation, and skills. Access, there's a lot of great innovative work we are doing, providing what you call white space access to communities who never had any access to connectivity. In essence, we are using the unused TV frequencies and space to provide broadband connectivity in remote villages in Kenya. We are just opening up a very exciting service here in Ghana. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, was just talking about it yesterday in a panel, very excited about it. And we do the same in 6 countries in Africa. Innovation is key too. And what we do in innovation is actually enabling a lot of young startups in Africa, in South Africa, Kenya, and many other countries, to develop some very innovative apps and services to use this mobile actually economy developing in Africa, which is booming. This is really what we call the first mobile continent in the world, is Africa. And we enable innovation. And third, critical, is skills, people. This is probably the key and most important actually human capital lever for African development, and we are investing in it as a company. So we are developing for Africa Academy Online, where people can have access, free access to digital skills. We are providing to all schools, universities, free access to Office 65 service so that the kids and students can actually grow and then build their business. And we are excited about the progress we are making indeed, coming back to your question, in Africa.
The pace of adoption of this technological revolution in Africa, could it be faster? And if it can be faster, what are you saying to the political leaders in Africa to help you help Africans to embrace technology a little bit faster?
I think it accelerates actually, because the accessibility of the African continent to the broad internet is getting better. You've got more cables coming to Africa first. Second, you have some innovative solutions such as the one I was describing, Whitespace, coming to many places we never had any access. 3, it's all about enabling the human capital. It's all about having all those youth and actually smart and very entrepreneurs people to go and use technologies to build small businesses, to build e-commerce solutions, to build services. And the government has to step up as well to embrace that cloud-first and mobile-first mindset and really develop with that core technology the African continent.
Would you then say that the digital divide is being closed in Africa?
It would be very naive to say that. It's not closed for sure. But I mean, the incredible, again, progress, both on affordability of devices. I mean, we as a company have a great set of mobile solutions, including the acquisition of Nokia and Lumia. We are providing phones at $29, which are internet access phones, where you can do a lot of great things, and services which can be free as well. So this is a great accelerator, amplifier of that drive to this innovation in Africa.
And of course, technology has not only made our world smaller and faster, but there are concerns that it's also made it a bit of an unsafe world. What kind of conversations are you having to ensure that the pace of security around technology keeps up with the development of technology?
Certainly, as a company, we are incredibly committed to a very high bar on security, both for people, but also for businesses and countries. We have built actually an incredible depth of security in our cloud infrastructure to make sure we can not only resist to any kind of attacks, but we can actually protect our customers' data. Yeah. We are also encrypting all the information in our data centers, between our data centers and our customers, to make sure it's fully protected. And we are partnering with government as well to advise them on cybersecurity so that they actually build some super strong infrastructure for the future.
Final question. I'm sure that you have spoken to a lot of young leaders that are here in Davos. What are the future leaders saying about technology? Are they as excited as you are about what technology can do tomorrow?
Young leaders have already embraced technology for years, almost since the day of their birth. So in a way, they are natively digital. Not only they fully understand, they want to go faster. Yeah. And that's the great hope, actually, because all those young entrepreneurs are taking on the world now, and they natively go digital immediately, which is going to really accelerate economies like African economies, which are already among the fastest growing economies in the world. So that makes me very helpful, actually, for the African continent.
That's that's a very hopeful Jean-Philippe Couture, the president of Microsoft, talking to me there about whether technology has indeed lived up to its expectations. Moses, technology, innovation, big theme running through the World Economic Forum. Did you get a sense that there was a renewed excitement about what leveraging of technology could do for the African continent?
Oh yes, I certainly did, and I had an opportunity to be on the future of technology debate with President Kagame from Africa and some of the big, what you call Google and Microsoft were also represented there. I think for Africa, there's no doubt that technology will actually enable Africa to advance faster than the Western world in economic growth. But you were right by asking him, what about security?
Right.
I mean, we at KPMG has also invested in cyber security because that is something that is important to make sure that we make internet, we make this thing a safer place for business.
Absolutely. One of the other observations that were made with regards to the African continent was the absence of Nigeria. Now, in previous years, the Nigerian delegation has always been very prominent and very, very big. But given the fact that the country is headed to elections, it was maybe somewhat understandable that they weren't there. As a South African, did you feel that there was a lack because of a Nigerian absence at all?
I actually didn't feel that much because, I mean, I saw some of Nigerian business leaders. For example, Aliko Dangote was there and some of the Nigerian leadership was there. But I didn't have a sense that there were absence at all. But yeah. Hopefully in South Africa they'll play a meaningful role as a leading economy in the continent.
So leading economy aside, whether they're there or not, did you get a sense that there was an African agenda? Was there a commonality in terms of what African leaders were saying and the messages that they were conveying at the forum?
I certainly felt that. I certainly felt that there was a unity among the African leaders. If you take President Zuma from one hand, you look at President Kagame also. They were talking about one thing: Africa is open for business. We have our own problems, but please do come and help us to grow. You know, talking about making enabling environment for business to grow.
And of course, I want us to get back to that African agenda, but you've just touched now on the South African issue. Yeah. And there was a 7-strong ministerial delegations from the South African side. Yeah. And they seem to have put on a very brave act of talking candidly about Eskom and the issues that we're having back home and the inability of the National Development Plan to take off as quickly as we might have liked it to be. What did you take away from the South African delegation as maybe one of the key messages that resonated with you?
Yeah, for me, I was very impressed with Team South Africa, both from public government led by President Zuma, even Brand South Africa being there. Their message was simple. One, we recognize the problems that we have back home, but we do have vast opportunities that we can bring business to come and thrive in South Africa. But also what I liked was the acknowledgement of the problems. You know, if you look at corruption, you look at that we slide slightly backward on, you know, ease of doing business in Africa. There was openness about that, but also passion about opportunities of growth.
So it certainly sounds like there was a clear common agenda coming from the African continent, but most importantly that South Africa's PR machine was well-oiled and up to the task with all the leaders with one consistent message that the country certainly has challenges, but it is indeed still open for business. Let's take a short break on that note, and when we come back, let's get more from the lady who's responsible for the World Economic Forum's activities in Africa. That's Elsie Kanza. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Invest Africa. Now, tonight we're looking back on the World Economic Forum held in Davos this year. Remember that you can certainly tweet us at CNBC Africa, and don't forget the hashtag, of course, which is Invest Africa, if you want to be a part of this conversation. Still with me, my guest, Kgosana, the KPMG South Africa CEO. Now, before we get back to get some insights and feedback from Moses, I did get an opportunity to speak to the lady who's responsible for the World Economic Forum's activities in Africa. That's Kgosana, and she used the opportunity to remind us of the upcoming WEF Africa Summit.
We have a number of firsts. First, in terms of overall participation of the different African communities, and which is higher than it's ever been. We have highest ever participation of countries. We have 16 countries represented. We have over 60 business leaders. We have 7 heads of state and government. We have representatives from our youth communities, civil society, academia, and we even have Bishop Thabo Makgoba, right? So Africa is fully represented in terms of voice.
Yeah.
And even across the program, we have a lot more sessions where we have the African voice. And I think it's really important to underscore that we've been able to reposition Africa in the global agenda with respect to issues that are common, that they can be global, but they're also relevant in Africa, and therefore our African participants are able to share their insights and further deepen their understanding, as well as share solutions that may be relevant to others.
Perhaps also give us just a bit of an indication of what the Africa agenda really is. What are some of those commonalities that are running across many of the African countries that are represented here?
Well, one is, let me focus on 2 main areas. One is with respect to the geopolitical crisis, so to speak, where we're seeing new kinds of trade and investment arrangements between countries. This definitely also plays or has an impact on the African continents, with Africa being the most promising investment destination at this juncture, right? So since 2001, Africa as a continent has been growing 2 to 3 percentage points above the global average. So Africa matters as far as investment is concerned. And so these new shifts of who's engaging with who and changes in alliances does have some implications. And so as Africans, we're paying attention to those discussions, including such things as the global, the security outlook, right? What's happening with resources, with the changes in commodity prices, and this includes oil. Again, this has an impact on Africa with new findings, and Africans are very well engaged. The other key area where we see Africa being featured on the global stage is with respect to economic outlook.
Right.
And just picking on what's happening with commodity prices, for countries that were major oil exporting countries, yes, they have been negatively impacted. Fortunately, a lot of the reforms that have contributed to the growth that we've been seeing are cushioning that to some extent.
Final questions, just because we're running out of time, and I really want us to throw forward to WEF Africa, which is coming up in June 2015. What to expect? What are you putting together for that particular meeting?
Very briefly, we'll be marking 25 years of change in Africa. This will be the 25th edition of the World Economic Forum on Africa. Some of you may remember that it started with South Africa's coming out of apartheid, and so we'll be looking back at what lessons we've learned over the last 25 years. We have some leaders today who were present then, and then we'll look forward. So looking forward another 25 years. So the overall theme is then and now, reimagining Africa's future, and we hope to deepen our insights on where to be bolder as well as where to be more pragmatic.
Well, it certainly seems that you and Kgosana are on the same page. She's reinforcing the message that you shared with us earlier, that Africa was firmly on the agenda. But 2 issues that she raises and that maybe we can tackle. The first one, she talks about the security outlook for Africa. We've seen global comparisons between what's happened in Paris versus what continues to happen in the northern parts of Nigeria. The sense you get about the responsiveness of African governments to the terror situation that we have unfolding on the continent.
Look, I think that's a concern, and I don't think the responsiveness is good enough or quick enough. I mean, the whole area of Al-Shabaab and also what's happening with Boko Haram in Nigeria, that is a concern for investors out there. But if we look outside Africa, I mean, there are similar problems if you look at Russia and you look at the Middle East. But I think for us in Africa, as a continent that wants to grow, we need to work harder in solving that out. But I personally don't believe our leaders are responding quicker to that. Maybe at the AEU that is coming soon, that will be on the agenda.
The second issue that she touches on is falling commodity prices, and in particular she makes reference to oil, and we know the kind of impact that's had on economies like Nigeria. The winners and losers in this scenario, in your view?
Well, sadly, I mean, the oil exporting countries like Nigeria, with the price going down, will feel the pinch of that. But those who gains need to be able to see the prices of things going down, so that the people out there, I mean, the consumers can see the benefit. But it hasn't filtered down. Even the Minister Nene at Davos accepted that, yes, the oil price have come down, but we haven't seen filtering down. They are forecasting that it will stay the same, between $60 and $70, and many business leaders are saying that's what it will be. But that will be set for Angola, for Nigeria, if the oil price goes low. Should
we be concerned in the context of the discoveries of oil and gas that we've seen in the continent of late? I mean, we've got big oil exploration companies like Tullow that operate in the East African part of the continent, who are saying they're cutting back on their exploration budgets because it's just not feasible for them to be drilling at $40 a barrel. Do you get a sense that there is a threat to Africa's economic resurgence because of this rather low oil price?
I certainly think there will be a threat if the oil price doesn't rise up in the next a few months or year. And you're right, people can invest at that low prices, but we need to find other ways of investments to grow the continent.
Well, at the World Economic Forum, we certainly did speak continental issues, but I also got an opportunity to touch base with some captains of industry from the South African landscape. One of those captains is Sipho Maseko. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Telkom. Let's hear what he took away from this year's meeting.
Well, for us it's in two parts. The first part is around the world is converging on digital platforms and digitalization of the world. So as Telkom, it's a very important place for us to meet with different suppliers, different vendors, potentially different partners that we can do things with and also that we can learn from. So from that perspective, it's been a very, very important event for us. If you look at things like cyber crime, cyber security, we are at the heart of connectivity in South Africa, so it's important for us to learn from others what it is that they're doing and partner with others. So from a company perspective, that's what's been happening.
And of course, as you engage with your counterparts from around the world, there's certain case studies, I'm sure, that pique your interest. Which markets have done exciting things that you think there are lessons that can be learned and applied within the South African context?
Well, a few markets actually. Malaysia has done very, very well in terms of getting connectivity and broadband to all. Australia has also been doing very, very well in terms of their national broadband plan. But the Indians also have very, very fascinating applications that we think can become part of the arsenal for us to be able to offer solutions to citizens and to government and to corporations. Connectivity in itself is great, but actually if there are no applications on top of it where people can use it in the right way. So for us, that has been very, very illuminating to have those sorts of conversations.
Are there any stumbling blocks in your way that perhaps hinder you from latching on to some of these examples that you've cited?
Well, I mean, clearly the first thing is just capability, just to have people that have been around the world, to open ourselves up and to be a lot more vulnerable than we may have been. The ecosystem is global, the ecosystem is very broad, so we can't live as an island. As Telkom, we need to be able to interact with the entire ecosystem. So from that perspective, I think we're beginning to open up those sorts of barriers that may have been there in the past.
There's been an interesting article, I think, just in the previous week in South African media saying that Telkom is the poster child for how to turn around a parastatal, which I'm sure is compliments to you. But let's talk about some of the milestones you still have to hit within your turnaround strategy. Bring us up to speed where you are and where you're still going.
Sure. Well, firstly, it's very flattering to be called the poster child. The Telkom turnaround, in our view, will take at least about 10 years. We are now probably at year 2 of the turnaround. There's quite a lot that we need to do. We need to get our productivity at the right place. We need to be able to get the offer composition in the right place, both for consumers and for businesses. We need to be able to get broadband to be a lot more pervasive than what it currently is. So all of that, actually, it's probably the next milestone. How do we get a lot more connectivity? How do we get a lot more people on the internet? How do we bring new applications that can actually solve practical problems? We've been dealing a lot with the cost issues. I think now we are a lot more disciplined in how we allocate resources in the company. We're very, very prudent about it. It's not our money, it's shareholders' money, so we need to be very careful around how we own it and how we use it, rather. So the journey, we are really at the beginning of it. There's still a lot more to do for telecom in the coming years. So it's something that we are committed to.
And of course, one focus that you've highlighted recently is to aggressively go and service the small and medium-sized enterprises. How does that fit into the broader strategy?
Well, the competitiveness of small enterprises and even large enterprises will be around their ability to connect to their customers, connect with their suppliers. So connectivity as a basic infrastructure provisioning will be the first thing. The second thing, obviously, will be how can they get the right applications that enable them to trade, to do business with their customers locally and internationally. That will make them competitive. So for us, actually, being able to get broadband into their businesses is the first key step in getting them to be competitive locally and also to be able to play externally to South Africa.
Well, one thing that's clear from what Nozipho Maseko shares is that our regulatory environment across industries needs to allow industry to become more competitive. Do you get a sense that we're moving in the right direction in that regard?
We are moving there, but very slowly. And I think it's not only us, the whole world was debating around making sure that we've got enabling regulatory environment and legislation so that technology, internet can actually function well.
Well, we've almost come to the end of this week's show. We're going to get a final comment from Moses. But if you saw earlier, Nozipho Maseko is trying desperately to hide the fact that he's an Orlando Pirates supporter with that black and white beanie that he was wearing. But Moses, I hope that you're not an Orlando Pirates supporter, one. But two, let's get a sense of what was your key highlight of the meeting.
Well, I am an Orlando Pirates supporter. Once a pirate, always a pirate. But anyway, for me, Davos have been a wonderful experience, and I was glad that Africa was well represented. Team South Africa actually served us very well out there in Davos, and we'll see growth hopefully coming in the next few weeks.
Positivity all around coming from insight from the CEO of KPMG South Africa, sharing his insights on his first World Economic Forum for 2015. Thank you so much to my guests. Now, remember that we do value your comments. You can certainly send us those comments. The details are on your screen. From myself and the Invest Africa team, it's goodbye for now.